Hello, everybody. We're back. We're back. A dinosaur story? No. Everyone, it's Dan. Man Cave Mondays. We have been out for a year? 2 years. Shut up. I'm going to bring Bobby in because he's here with me. He's pointing up 2 fingers. It's been 2 years.
Yeah. Almost 2 years. It's almost going on 2 years. Yeah.
Man.
So
what have we been doing?
Moving,
right? I'm in a new cave. You're in a new
I'm
cave.
in a new cave.
Yeah, we've got,
Christian's in a new cave.
Christian's in a new cave. He's going to be joining us here, I believe, in a little bit. Yeah, just lots of life going on. Imagine that.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing. We've stayed in touch.
Us?
Stayed in touch. Yeah.
No.
Obviously. And every now and then there's like some news that shows
superhero
up.
Movie, but
you're like getting all buffery there, dude. You all right? You're like bouncing off.
Yeah, I have too many tabs. I'm fixing it. Don't worry. It's
okay.
not
right,
it's
right,
not you. It's me. I promise.
It's a you thing, not a me thing. Okay. But we've stayed in touch,
exactly.
and every now and then there's like nerdy
offended.
news that shows up, and I'm like, oh man, we should go on and talk about it, right? Well, after seeing stuff like that hit the fan over and over and over and over for now apparently almost 2 years, I finally saw one thing happen. One thing happened that that lit a fire under me that went, okay, we got to talk.
Just one thing. There's a lot of things that let you under your
There's been
fire.
a lot. There's been
There's
a
a lot
lot
of things
connected to this one thing. But this past week, it was officially announced and verified by
verified. Again,
verified.
It was, no one ever said it, but it's definitely implied it's dead.
Verified by Mr. James Gunn that essentially the Snyderverse is officially dead.
Yeah,
like dead.
Well, what's
under his leadership? He's not using any of it. He's rebooting everything.
So again, for people who do not know what's happening, because a lot of stuff happened with Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
I think that you have to get to the background. So you got to clarify what's happening, because you could just say James Gunn.
Go for it. I'm too mad, and I'm going to get on the soapbox too quickly here. So
let's calm down. Let's look at the factoids, and I'm going to be going off my mind. So I've been trying to review everything. So Warner Brothers was just eaten up in a big merger. So now it's Warner Brothers Discovery. And there is a lot, and Warner Brothers Discovery owes a lot of money. So they've been trying to cut as many projects as possible, lower down the amount of streaming projects as much as possible. For example, the upcoming Batgirl TV show, which was almost practically in the can.
That was the dumbest movie.
Well, they did it because they wanted the tax write-off. Apparently, someone said, they said that wasn't the direction the DC universe wanted to go in. It was too campy. It was too WB-ish. That was some of the things going around.
Because that hasn't been successful. I mean, anyway.
Again,
I'm interrupting. Sorry.
You're interrupting, so don't, again, always fun with the side commentary, but I'm just kind of going over all the details, some of the examples, but they canned it, and it's not going to see the light of day. It's going to go down in history like the original Fantastic Four movie, because they needed the tax write-off. They felt that the tax write-off was going to be a bigger incentive than releasing it to the public. They've been taking shows off of their streaming services because they want to stop paying the talent the residuals. So that's some of the stuff that's been happening. And then recently, James Hamden was taken off the head of the DC and animation projects, and James Gunn and Peter Safran are now in charge of the DC movies, television, and animation division. Am I missing anything so far?
And I believe, all things connected and related to the DC universe that James Gunn is trying to build. And that includes apparently video games too. I was reading on James Gunn's Twitter. He was talking about his plan is to have a cohesive universe that crosses all mediums and all platforms.
And James Gunn, most of us, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say James Gunn. A lot of us know James Gunn because he was the original. He directed Scooby-Doo, the original Scooby-Doo movies. But more recently, we know him from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And then there was some.
He was also heavily involved in Brightburn.
Yeah. So
the super dark take on Superman,
which you loved, right?
You
were calling the gospel of it.
I liked it, but I didn't like how it was. It wasn't enough for me.
Okay, all right.
Does that make sense?
It wasn't. It wasn't my cup of.
They did a great job of establishing someone with the Superman abilities to be a villain as a little kid. They did a great job with that. But the stuff that I love the most, which is world building, none of that was in there. Actual character growth and development, wasn't really. It was very much like a B flick horror movie take on Superman. Does that make sense? So,
I think
and the
that
game,
makes sense.
the movie Super, which had Rainn Wilson as like a vigilante superhero guy. He did that as well, and that was apparently part of the same universe. That was okay. I don't know. It wasn't great, but
anyway, so but he's done that, and then there was some Twitter issue stuff. Marvel Disney threw him off Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he went on to make the Suicide Squad for DC, and it had moderate success. And then that he was able to spin off an HBO Max series called Peacemaker, and did that.
So let's not before we dive into all of the stuff about where we might be going. Let's talk for a second about
I'm still going on
Suicide
what's
Squad
happening.
And Peacemaker. Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to not move past that yet. Because we hadn't talked about it really. What were your thoughts on the Suicide Squad, and what were your thoughts on the Peacemaker?
Well, again, I enjoyed it. I loved it.
What did you like about them?
What did I like about them? Well,
yeah,
one,
here's Christian. Christian's in.
Hi, Christian. Long time no see.
How are you, sir?
Doing well. How about you guys?
Welcome back.
I know it's been a while.
It's been a while.
We were trying to go over the history of the business part of the DC universe and what's been going on. And Dan is getting me sidetracked on what I love or what I really like. And I did love. I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker.
Have a conversation about if James Gunn is going to be the main person in charge.
What did I? So he's asking me,
what has he done that we have enjoyed, and particularly in the realm of superhero movies and the realm of DC movies, what has he done that you guys have enjoyed?
So Guardian. So I love Guardians 1 and 2. I loved what he did with the holiday special. I thought it was ingenious, fun. I loved it.
You like the holiday special?
I've watched it 3 times with my son.
Dude.
Okay. So
I haven't actually gotten around to watching it yet.
Okay.
I
did
not care for
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
It was way too cheesy and just
But that was the point. It was a better version of the original Star Wars Celebration special. That was the point of it.
I don't
Anyway, this is my opinion.
If that was the point of it, then
it was supposed to be a very super cheesy holiday special, so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
again. I don't know where he went.
Yeah. So,
He'll be back.
But the Suicide Squad, I love the idea that they had essentially, there was a fake out squad. They had all these A-list actors. They had Pete Davidson. They had all these people going in, and then they killed everyone off in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Then went on to the B squad. They went under the B team or the real A team of the Suicide Squad for the rest of the movie, which I thought was hilarious. I thought it was a fun take. I thought it did a good world building connection into the DC universe. I thought
how did it do world building into the rest of the
you're building universe? You're building Amanda Waller, because eventually, from the rumors that I was hearing, if the Snyderverse was going to continue, everything was going to revolve around the trial of Amanda Waller. Everything was going to revolve around her.
I don't know how I feel about that either. I mean, okay.
So, but that's again, and then Peacemaker from the themes from the fun dancing theme song, which is on my running playlist.
That opening song and dance number at the beginning of Peacemaker made me want to throw up every time I watched it. I skipped it every single time. Nails on chalkboard. I'm like, this is a superhero movie.
No,
this is a rated R mature superhero. Like, none of this makes me feel like James Gunn understands.
Peacemaker is not a superhero. He is a vigilante.
I totally get it.
Okay.
But when it comes to DC world building, everything that James Gunn has done has essentially been like Family Guy-esque style humor slapped on a comic books character.
But that's
Like,
what you're judging him on. The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Guardians of the Galaxy. There wasn't really
all of the Marvel stuff. All of the Marvel stuff is a result of him being allowed to play within a certain playground that he is given permission to do without like free reign, do whatever you want.
Right. And
Kevin Feige and all, like, there's no way him on his own being the main person in charge would have made Guardians of the Galaxy as wonderful and well accepted to the broader audience as it was. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
I think if it wasn't for James Gunn and you would not have had a successful run, because the Guardians were this not even C-list, D-list.
Right, nobody knew who they were.
No one knew about it.
Totally get it. Then he did a great job
directing this charm, and putting his touches into it. So
I agree.
For him to like just say it's not going to work because we haven't even given him a fair shot at it.
He has had a fair shot at. Welcome back, Christian.
Sorry, technical problems. I'm trying to
technical issues. It happens, dude. Here's the thing, man. I don't see James Gunn knowing how to or guiding the overall depth of quality world building and storytelling that we have come to know as a result of Zack Snyder. And I know you guys know how I feel about Zack Snyder. I love the level of detail that he puts into everything that he creates, right? So some people are like, oh, he's too dark. He uses slow-mo too much, like all of those style. I get it. Totally get it. But the one thing that you can't say about him is that he's not someone who has a grand vision with attention to detail that is cohesively bringing all of this stuff together. And he knew when he wasn't the person to be able to direct the right kind of movie or write the right kind of story, right, for a specific character. Like,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are we talking about James Gunn or are we talking about Zack Snyder? Okay, sorry. I got lost for a second.
He wasn't directly involved in, Aquaman. He wasn't directly involved in Shazam. He wasn't directly involved in Wonder Woman, but he was in the background working with, coaching, and helping the directors of all of those successful films to be able to build a cohesive narrative around those characters that match and fit everything that was going on. I don't see James Gunn doing that. His film that he created with the Suicide Squad, most of those characters do not fit within any of the other characters and content of the rest of the DC universe, with the exception possibly of Amanda Waller. Because how do you get her wrong when you get it right the first time, I don't know, dude. I don't see it.
Well, so I enjoyed it. I laughed. I cried. I hurled. To quote Wayne's World, I listened to the theme, The Peacemaker. I thought it was a fun take on the superhero genre. I thought it was a realistic of a guy who has no powers being brought in and being used by the government. And then he has traumatic issues where he can't be that super ultra violent vigilante anymore to humans. So, and he was going through a person, and it was a growing process because in the Suicide Squad, the Peacemaker was a real, excuse my French, POS. But then definitely. He's redeemed throughout the show, showing layers, how he had this horrible childhood, how his father abused him, how his death of his brother affected him, and then all the way he grew up, and then slowly peeling back, making himself vulnerable, and he's still essentially the same person, but again, growing, showing depth.
Honestly, Bobby, I was upset that they brought him back because I thought killing him off in the Suicide Squad was perfect.
Well, it was in the did you watch it through the end? Because that was the teaser.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I thought him dying was perfect, especially since it was a death that would have come at a cost for a character that was meaningful, redeeming himself.
Well, he didn't get redeemed in the Suicide Squad. He was a secret agent.
Like I'm not saying the Peacemaker was killed off because was it Deadshot or Deathstroke? Who was it? Deadshot. Bullseye.
Bloodsport.
That's who I'm thinking.
Bloodsport. They're all basically the same character.
Bloodsport took him out, and
Bloodsport took him out. They're all the same character, meaning because they're all based on the same.
And it was like that. That's a redeeming thing about his character that I loved, and then they completely undercut that entire emotional development and payoff by.
Well, they were shooting each other because they wanted to kill each other, and
I know
Bloodsport got the better shot because he had the smaller bullet that and got Peacemaker, and that was also a development.
Peacemaker should have died. They both should have died. That's what I'm saying. They both should have died. And of the two that you could have brought back, Peacemaker was the wrong one, in my opinion. But
again, I think we both know where we're sitting on our sides.
On that. Yeah.
We're sitting on our sides. So then this comes out, the Batman, the Robert Pattinson, the Batman comes out, makes $770 million in the box office. Huge.
Yeah.
Gets bigger first week numbers than Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO. Sorry to tell you, the Batman hit 4.1.
That entirely depends on how you're counting the numbers, but yeah.
All right. So you have that kind of stuff going in. And then you have all of the drama that the BS the studios put Zack Snyder through. So you have all that. You have you still have the issues with Ezra Miller and the multiple reshoots you have going on with Aquaman.
Started on that.
We
should have seen the Flash movie come out a long time ago.
Then you also have
Miller kept. Yeah, it's been.
You have the issues with Amber Heard.
Yeah,
and the Aquaman. So you have that going on in the background. So you still have all this Zack Snyder
cut her from that
stuff so you have all this baggage going on with the not that doesn't happen, but all because of all the movies associated with Zack Snyder's universe that still are in production or in quasi-production and reshoots, whatever. So you have all that stuff going on right now. So you have all that stuff going in.
But all the reshoots, I feel like all the reshoots that they're doing, all the reshoots that they keep pushing are all a result of this insane drama and inconsistency going on in the background.
Well, again, with everything
over and over, and like, oh, we're gonna reshoot. Oh, we're gonna do another reshoot. Oh, we're gonna.
Well, you have Fury of the Gods. Yeah, you have Fury of the Gods coming out because then, Gal Gadot is supposed to cameo in that. You're supposed to have at one point Ben Affleck supposed to be in The Flash, and now he's cut out. The Cyborg was supposed to be.
And here's the funny thing: it was going to be Michael Keaton was the main person, and now he apparently got sidelined. And then Ben Affleck comes in, and then now Ben Affleck is apparently what is going on?
So there's a lot of baggage happening right now. Whatever knows what's happening, whether it's
this next year is going to be really weird for DC stuff to watch these movies come out. How are you going to sell everyone on these movies being worth watching if it's not actually concluding the story that Zack Snyder started back with Man of Steel?
Well, again, also too,
how do you convince people to go see it?
What did you think of the Joker?
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay, so another standalone DC movie you loved, right? That was not part of this. That was not part of the Snyder universe. All right. So,
but here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing.
And didn't win an Oscar, right?
Calling it the Snyder universe.
Snyderverse.
The Snyder universe. The Snyderverse. It has not been the Snyderverse since he was cut from being able to finish his original run at the Justice League.
Well,
once he was cut from that, it was no longer a Snyderverse. It was WB trying to patch all kinds of crap and make up for their mistakes from letting him go and kicking him to the curb and not allowing him to actually finish his actual vision of what he had.
And you still and you have
you look at Aquaman, you look at Wonder Woman, you look at let me see if I can bring this up here.
Well, I was just saying, because all of his style is in all the movies. Even we saw Black Adam together. Okay. And we enjoyed Black Adam, right?
I liked it. Yeah. I
liked it. And there was elements of Zack Snyder elements in that movie. The slow motion. What were the Zack Snyder
elements in it?
I would say the slow motion, the slow motion.
That's not, see, this is again, Bobby, this is where I think we maybe disagree a bit, because I feel like Zack Snyder's films are significantly more, like, there's a lot more depth to the movie than just, he uses a lot of slow motion.
But again, there was an attempt. What I'm saying, there was, whether it was not the attempt you liked, there was an attempt. And then
it shouldn't have been just an attempt, though. It should have been Zack Snyder being involved all this time to help guide. Like, it could have been the Kevin Feige of the DC universe. He should have been.
It didn't, but because the producers got scared of his direction, and because the way Batman versus Superman hit theaters and the reaction, because it was too dark, they got scared. They used his personal tragedy.
But the ultimate version of Batman versus Superman is always better. Here's the thing about Zack Snyder. This is the thing about Zack Snyder that most people, that when they say they don't like his movies, most of the time, and yes, I'm getting on my soapbox here.
You were getting on your soapbox, and I don't think we haven't touched the surface of where we're supposed to be.
I've been allowing you to go on your thing for a while, but we got to give some back and forth here.
Okay.
The thing about Zack Snyder is every time he's allowed to just finish the actual full movie, it's always better than whatever the studio forced him to chop up and then put out the first time.
Look,
Sucker Punch, the director's cut version, the extended version, way better.
I'm a fan of The Watchmen.
Way better.
I love The Watchmen.
Dead by Dawn, way better. Right. Batman v Superman, way better. Justice League, way better.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you. I like the uncut. I like the extended, uncut versions of all those movies. So
yeah. And at the very least, they're always, even if you don't like them, it's hard to argue that they're not better than the original version that the studio forced him to have to settle for.
Like, I like what he did with Watchmen, even what he had to do at the very end of Watchmen. So
it made sense to do it that way.
I like it.
It's controversial. I get it. And I know why some people don't. Yeah.
So don't think I'm on like, oh, he sucks, I'm glad he's gone. I'm not saying that. I liked all of this stuff. I love his Justice League version was superior to the Justice League version. To the Joss Whedon version.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I think we're both on the same page on that. Okay. So, but what I'm trying to get to is all the stuff that's been happening in the background. So you have Black Adam, which is kind of culmination of what we're about to get to. Patty Jenkins was working on Wonder Woman 88 did not go very well. They're trying to make her work on Wonder Woman 3. They did not want to, whatever happened between James Gunn and Peter Safran and Patty Jenkins and David Zaslav, they did not like her direction. They said, rewrite the script. She said no, and she walked away, or something along those lines. Somewhere in the gray, and something like that. So now she's gone, right?
Again, who was the one person that made a huge difference in what was different between the first Wonder Woman and the second Wonder Woman?
Well, again, Zack Snyder.
Snyder's connection and involvement in coaching her through building up this amazing character's first story, right?
Yes. And so you have a completely different tone and everything. So that's now gone. All right. So you had 88. That was a flop. They're trying to move her as she said no. Now they're getting rid of talent. In the background, remember, WB needs to save money. They're trying to cut costs. They're trying to
It
cancel
needs to be more than
things.
saving money. They got to make money too.
They got to make money. They got to make money,
cut costs, and they got to save money. They got to.
But sometimes you can do a tax write-off too. That'd be the fastest way to do it. So then, so James Gunn and Peter Safran gets announced to be the lead, to get to be leader of the DC movie universe, entertainment universe. And then you see the big news: Henry Cavill is at the end of Black Adam as Superman. He goes on Twitter and says, "Guys, I'm back. I'm going to be Superman,"
which was awesome.
Which we're all excited about.
The studio told him to do. The studio straight up told him to do that.
They told him to do it. Okay. And now, then all of a sudden, he has a sit down meeting with James Gunn, Peter Safran, that says, studio's going in a different direction. We're not going to use you anymore, which effectively ends the Snyderverse. But then you have these last couple movies, which are loosely connected still, that have not been released yet. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Aquaman 2, The Flash, right? Is there anything else I'm missing?
Not that I can remember.
No, I think that's it.
So that you have the last 3 movies at the end.
Here's what his Twitter, when Henry officially came out and said, I was just given the axe. I'm not going to be Superman despite what everyone told me. Here's what he said. I just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October prior to their hire. He's making it pretty clear that this is entirely on James Gunn and Peter Safran. Safran? Yeah. Whatever the hell.
Safran,
one or the other.
Douchebag 1 and douchebag 2. We'll call him that. D-bag 1.
I think it's a business decision, Dan. So I don't want to call them a douchebag. Don't call them douchebags. I think it's more business than anything.
It's not, but it's not. It's not though, Bobby. Well, of course it's business. Okay, don't get me wrong. Of course it's business. It's really stupid business. Everything that has been going on with the DC universe, right? And how divisive it's been, when James Gunn made it very clear, like, hey, this is a very, very divided fan base right now. He came in saying, when I took this on, I knew it was going to be divided. He said that abundantly clear on his Twitter feed. And here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. The one thing that has been keeping everybody on every side with the whole Zack Snyder, love the Snyderverse, hate the Snyderverse, the one thing everybody has been agreeing on.
There's Twitter bots.
Is we want to see Henry Cavill become the iconic symbol of hope Superman that everyone knows Superman is meant to be. Everybody agrees that that's what we want to see. That's what we need to see, right? Henry knew it.
Or at the very least, people agreed that he was the right guy to continue to lead Superman through the franchise.
Right. And Zack Snyder even knew it. Like, his whole goal from the very beginning was make this iconic hero go through some shit so that when he steps into that role and becomes that persona of hope, we all have been through that journey, and it matters. It matters when he becomes that and he truly steps into it and the world looks at him in that way. It matters because we know the journey he's been on, right?
Yeah.
That's the one thing, whether you've loved or hated the beginnings of that Superman, people who love Zack Snyder's vision, people who've hated Zack Snyder's vision, all of them, all coming together under the banner of, yes, we want to see this Superman. We want to see it.
Yeah.
We've waited way too long. We want to see it.
Henry
And what
Cavill
does
was the
James Gunn
most
do the very
universally liked casting
first thing he
choice.
does? First thing he does when he comes in, you're never going to see that Superman. Like, I'm not interested in seeing any DC movies anymore. I'm really not.
Hold on, wait. You're saying James Gunn is not going to show you the Superman of hope and that we all want to see, the
James
Christopher
Gunn
Reeves?
is not going to let us see the Superman that we have been hanging in there with and hoping and praying would become the symbol of hope that we know we need him to be, and that Henry Cavill would be the one who would be that Superman.
Yeah.
Because it matters that he's the one who's gone through all of this stuff, and then he becomes that symbol of hope, right? Like, dying and then coming back, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think less of it is, I think, in my personal opinion, I think less of it is even necessarily about the, like, what would the character of Superman become, and more of it is about Henry Cavill being given the chance to see this character to fruition after all of the stuff he's been through.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I think that's the biggest thing is, like, Henry Cavill is probably the only DC character or actor that has been universally agreed is a great casting choice.
So do you think they should just put him in a new universe? Just kept him? Would you even happen if you kept him?
Here's the thing, right? Who knows what DC's even doing? Right? Who knows what universe they're going with? Who's going to do what? Who's going to be what? Nobody knows, right? Because
they're washing their hands.
Right, because supposedly you had Michael Keaton in The Flash, right? So he was going to be their new Batman going forward, right? You have whatever, right? You have the Supergirl movie, which we don't know if that's even happening still. You have the movie which got canned. You have all of these things that were supposedly going to be leaning towards this new generation of characters, right? But then you have Superman come back, and then everybody's like, okay, they're going to kind of do a little bit of a hybrid. But now, who knows what they're even doing? They're cutting the cameos from The Flash, so we know that they've already been pretty much confirmed. They've cut a Henry Cavill cameo and they cut a Gal Gadot cameo from The Flash.
So the movie's going to suck completely.
So the movie shouldn't even be existing. The fact that they scrap the Batwoman movie that people were actually excited to see potentially.
They scrapped that, but they're keeping The Flash.
Yeah, but they're keeping The Flash despite all of Ezra Miller's issues.
Yeah.
And everything they've got going on with that. And so now what you've done is you've taken the one actor that everybody who's seen your movies can agree is the best casting choice you have, and you've thrown him to the wayside after he just left the other largest franchise he was a part of, which was the Witcher saga for Netflix.
Right.
He just left that. So now he was all yours. He was exclusively going to be yours to utilize and market off of. He could be your Robert Downey Jr. for the next 10 years of DC movies, and you threw him in the trash.
Yes, Bobby.
And said,
you don't have to.
No,
we're all adults here. You don't have to raise your hand.
No. I was just kind of waiting. I just want to there were rumors. And again, I'm going off of all these different sites because I was just trying to eat as much media as I can, the negative and the positive. There were rumors that one of the reasons Henry Cavill left The Witcher, he didn't like the direction of where the story was going, and they were going to cut him out more. So he left them. 100%. So that was one of the reasons too, not just.
Yeah, I'm not saying Superman, he left them to do DC.
Right, but I'm just saying that it's one of the reasons. It wasn't like, I mean, look, if I had the chance to be the Robert Downey Jr. and I'm going to focus on this, that would probably be one of my main reasons to do it. But also to say like, yeah, I don't like the direction where these guys are going. I just wanted to add that in there too. It's part of the story. So to put more context into it.
Here's where it gets really confusing for me. If we can go back to this, why is that showing a really weird thing? Oh, it's Twitter apparently is blocked. I can't do Twitter on live streams. Is that how that works? You guys can't see that, can you?
I can see it. I don't know what I'm looking. I'm looking at a thread from James Gunn.
Thread from James Gunn. Can you see that? Okay. The preview thing down below was showing just a big white screen. So, here's the deal. James Gunn started responding after everyone's like, "What do you mean Henry Cavill's not going to be Superman?" right? What's going on with the DC? Yada, 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 yada. Everyone's getting upset. He said, Peter and I have DC slated and ready to go, which couldn't be more, and we couldn't be over the moon about it. We'll be able to share some exciting information about our first projects at the beginning of the new year. Beginning of the new year. Everyone assumes January, but that could be January 30th or something.
Could be February.
Right, but here's the thing. If we keep scrolling down to all of the things he's actually responding to, here's the one that caught my eye. Someone said, could Ben Affleck direct? His response, pretty interesting. Met with Ben yesterday precisely because he wants to direct and we want him to direct. We just have to find the right project. Right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you guys have touched on this for a little bit. I've been kind of connecting in and out, but I think one of the big things that is important to talk about in this is the whole Dwayne Johnson situation involved with all this DC stuff, right?
Yeah, we haven't talked about it too much, but
yeah,
I feel like after James Gunn came in, he basically was like, all right, screw it. I guess I'm not doing this.
Yeah, right. Because he's been pushing that Black Adam movie for like almost 15 years now. Like he's been attached to that forever, it feels like. And
he was making a big deal that this is going to be.
He makes this movie.
He wanted to have a massive team up genuinely between Henry Cavill's Superman and him.
Right. He makes this movie. It doesn't really get critically acclaimed that well, right? People kind of are.
I mean, it did well. But as far as
that's the
thing.
That's the thing. It's mixed.
Audiences loved it. Critics are like, meh.
Like money wise, it's mixed reports. There's some reports saying it did well. Some reports are saying it didn't even make back the money it made on the budget. Like it's very kind of hit or miss reports.
Yeah. And it's probably because he's one of the most highly paid actors in
right.
Hollywood,
yeah, I'm sure that contributes.
Well, there was a big ad push. That was one of the things.
And so I think he probably had a big influence in them bringing Henry Cavill back.
Oh, big time.
And so I think personally, I almost wonder if he was trying to lure Henry Cavill back as a way of then leveraging Henry Cavill against the studio and saying, hey, look, I brought him back. You guys were done with him. I brought him back. Look at how popular this is now, as a way of almost kind of pushing himself into a little bit more of that leadership position and kind of giving himself a little more power. And so I wonder if then when James Gunn and Peter Safran stepped in, they were like, listen, your movie didn't even do that great to begin with. And we don't even really want to continue with any of this other stuff. So we're not even going to give you that leverage because we're getting rid of Henry Cavill too. So I wonder if that played a small part in it as well, was a little bit of removing his leverage from the entire situation by saying, listen, you didn't bring him back because we're not using him.
I think a lot of it was going into the drama because you had when you're going in on the cost, you have all this drama going into all the movies. So you have the drama with The Rock and his PR company messing on Twitter, because there are reports that The Rock's PR company was putting out false numbers to the media to push up Black Adam.
Make it seem like it was a bigger success.
Exactly. So he probably had power play trying to move more into that. So they didn't want to deal with that drama. You had to deal with Ezra Miller. You had to deal with Amber Heard. You have all the former baggage of Zack Snyder. You have and just the money. You look at, and I'm going to point to the Batman, which had bigger streaming numbers and bigger box office numbers than any of the other projects. Are like, people don't want a Zack Snyder-esque film. They don't want that. They want a new blood. Let's look at the numbers.
They don't want a Zack Snyder-esque film because they haven't really had one. Like this is my point, Bobby. Like the true culmination of where Zack Snyder was heading
But you're not. But unfortunately, Dan, you're not the primary audience, and you have to also get to the general audience. You know, us comic book lovers, I'm going to pay money to see all these films, but the general person that's not a comic book lover, they're not. You really have to attract them, so they're not going to be attracted. Oh, this is a Zack Snyder, all connected. You have to.
Yeah,
you know,
well, and I think
it was
part of
just
the problem
everything
too
going into it.
I think part of the problem too is that DC has, partially due to the Zack Snyder stuff, but also partially just due to over a decade now of misuse of trust with their fans. Right?
Exactly.
So people
and that's
don't
the real
DC.
key there, Christian.
So because I can't tell you how many people I've heard who had no clue that Black Adam was even a DC movie. They had no clue. Most people just assumed it was another Marvel movie, one of the numerous Marvel movies coming out, right? Because there's so many of those you can't keep track of, right? And so I think that's part of the reason why DC has struggled, is because they went from doing their own thing to, oh crap, look at how successful Marvel is getting. We need to do that, right? But then instead of taking their time to build up to that, they just immediately went, okay, cool, here's the Justice League. Which then they didn't execute it right because of all the stuff with Zack Snyder, right? That led into a whole bunch of issues with that. You had some characters they did really well with, some characters they weren't doing well with at all. So it led to all of this hodgepodge of just mediocrity all across the realm, right? And so you have the Zack Snyder fans who hate DC because they ruined everything that Zack Snyder wanted to do.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think they hate DC.
They hate the leadership of DC. They hate the people who were in charge.
DC isn't the one that we have the problem with. Warner Brothers.
Well, whatever.
Discovery, Warner
whatever you want to call it. The people behind the DC films, right? The people who were in charge of producing and making these DC films. So you have the Zack Snyder fans who don't like them anymore because of all this stuff. You have the non-Zack Snyder fans who hate him anymore because they're not doing anything with their films. And you have the general population who doesn't even know most of these films are DC.
Right.
And
so I understand very much.
That's kind of what Bobby is saying is like, you have to get to the general population.
I understand why it needs to be rebooted. I understand why.
But I don't think that means you need to get rid of it.
What I'm saying is that there's a history in the DC lore of pretty amazing ways of doing that can still wrap up Zack Snyder's Justice League universe.
Well, and I think that's what the goal with the Flash was. Honestly,
the goal with the Flash could have been that.
I think very clearly you see all of the leaked reports. You see kind of everything that they've been doing. To me, at least, it very clearly signified the Flash is going to flashpoint us.
That was supposed to point.
Yeah, into a DC world with a Michael Keaton, a Batwoman, a Supergirl,
and it could have opened up the
all
doors
of this
for
stuff,
Batman Beyond, and all of this amazing stuff, right? I think one of our listeners too chimed in here with a really good point that a lot of these actors are reaching the end of what would be their tenure as the character, because they're in their late 30s, getting into their early 40s. I mean, Batman, Ben Affleck's what, 50?
Yeah.
Right.
Late 50s.
And
I think they're
definitely like, if they want to hit the reset button and get some more longevity out of this, then you need to bring in younger actors. You need to hit the reset button, but you're not going to get the audience to go see the film if it comes at the expense of giving the audience that's hung out with you for this long the middle finger.
Right.
And one of the things about everything going on with, for example, Henry Cavill, there is so much about the way that Henry Cavill was treated and just kind of dragged along, all for the sake of promoting and making money off of a movie that, like, the hope of a movie. Using
that's
his
the
name
same problem people have with Netflix right now,
to
right?
promote the film, and
people are taking advantage of his commitment.
Right. So here's the thing. It reminds me very, very much of a lot of the bullshit that Zack Snyder had to deal with when the first Justice League movie came out.
Yeah.
They were using his name to promote a movie on the premise that this is his film, even though he had been kicked out. Right.
Yeah. Right, he'd been kicked out,
and the way that they
basically erased all
kicked
his
him out
progress.
was like, hey, you're going to be the good soldier and you're going to do what you need to until we don't need you, and then we're done, right?
Yeah.
And he was never allowed to really finish the work that he had committed to and the characters that he loved and the story that he was loving, right? Henry Cavill loves playing Superman. He's made that very clear.
Yeah.
And he has always, from the very first moment he stepped into those shoes, wanted to see Superman grow into that iconic character that he loves about Superman. And everybody knows that and wanted him to do that too. And now here they are throwing in, like kicking him to the curb. Like they really, really, really did him dirty.
So
And
can I, Dan,
that makes me mad. That makes me very mad.
Are you more upset that James Gunn, again, I think it wasn't a personal, it was a business decision. Are you mad at James Gunn for making a business decision for all those factors we've been talking about? Are you mad at the fact that Henry Cavill isn't going to finish up and finish the role properly like you wanted him to do?
I'm angry that so many people at Warner Brothers seem to have very little interest in allowing artists to actually convey, own, and commit to their craft, because they're just looking at the numbers and assuming they know what's best.
Again,
and the artist and the integrity of the artist, like they know their audience, they know the characters. When people, I mean, James Gunn was like, hey, we're going to do what's best for the story and we're going to do what's best for the DC characters. Well, I call bullshit on that, because what's best for the story and what's best for these characters, I'm not talking Batman in general. I'm not talking Superman in general. I'm not talking Wonder Woman in general, these characters. I'm talking about Gal Gadot's version of Wonder Woman. I'm talking Henry Cavill's version of Superman. I'm talking, yes, Ezra Miller's version of The Flash. Like all of these actors who have committed so much to these characters and done such a great job, especially under Zack Snyder's leadership, none of them are going to be allowed to really finish out their story. Zack Snyder's not going to be able to have the conclusion really to his universe, and all of these characters that people have committed to and that people have fallen in love with are not going to be able to have the conclusion they want, because James Gunn's coming in and just pulling the plug because he doesn't want to deal with the messiness of trying to correct the mistakes.
Well, remember too, he's also under a lot of pressure from higher up. So he might also just be the fall guy, and he got hired to be this person. It's like, look, these decisions are going to happen. You're going to be the fall guy. You're getting paid these big bucks.
That right there, if that's true, is exactly why I'm done with Warner Brothers and DC.
So
that's why I'm done.
So Dan, let me ask you a question.
It feels like they're bringing in another Marvel director to Marvelize the DC universe instead of owning the DC universe as something wholly unique with their characters that are different, that made them stand apart. Anyway, well, Christian, you were going to say
let me
something.
ask you a question. So do you, I feel like from everything that I've been hearing you say, is it true that I feel like the majority of what your problem here is less with what happened to Henry Cavill and more with you're being upset that Zack Snyder's vision isn't coming true still?
I don't care if it's Zack Snyder himself that's involved. I think he'd be the best person to do it. Mm-hmm. But whoever comes in should be respectful of all the effort and all the time and all the blood, sweat, and tears and all of the freaking millions of, fans out there who have literally committed their lives to making these characters and these stories become a reality. Like this franchise on a level, and when I say this franchise, I mean Zack Snyder's DC universe.
Yeah.
Like that is a franchise.
But unfortunately, his DC universe is 2.5 movies. Like realistically,
well, it's three. It's
like
three. One of them's really long.
Yeah, like it's 3 movies. One of which was like, it was never actually publicly released, really. Wasn't put in theaters. Most of the general population didn't really see it, right? So as far as the released in theater, Zack Snyder's cinematic universe, you got 2 movies and part of Justice League. Everything else
a lot more
after
than that, though, dude. Here's the
I
thing.
know, but I'm saying as far as actual his cinematic vision, I understand the characters were expanded upon from some of his original ideas and that sort of stuff. But like
the films that he was actually involved in as a producer, as a writer, or as a like some sort of co-creator on some level, and a consultant on. Look at this. That's the difference right there. If you want to talk about money, you want to talk about making it big, like this is the difference. Zack Snyder, when he's connecting the dots between all of these characters and building on, like, again, his attention to detail and how all of these little intricate things are connecting and building up, all of the films that actually has stuff connected to his movies made big.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that exact chart that you're showing here. Suicide Squad, they cut half of most of the stuff that
I know.
he had in
David
there.
Ayers.
Yeah, right. So
again, another similar situation.
So realistically, the movie that actually got released
wasn't
include
his. Yeah.
Exactly,
I totally agree.
So
totally agree.
Most of what was released wasn't even his. So yes, he was trying to connect it, but they didn't let him. Right. Aquaman, I think was it James Wan? Is he the director?
James Wan was directly connected with Zack Snyder.
James Wan, I think, had a very good connection with him, but also at the same time, I think he had a very good independent understanding of the Aquaman character. And Jason Momoa's passion really came through in that project as well. Because realistically,
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the success of all of these movies is only because of Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm saying. Right. Yeah, what I am saying is that
like,
when the directors were willing to lean on heavily the influence and insight of the man who started it all, those movies did better. They did better.
But also, if you notice, there is a trend there as well. Is those movies was right up until the point that people lost faith then. Which partially was due to Zack Snyder, but also I think a lot of it doesn't necessarily fall on the loss of Zack Snyder as much as it falls on the pushing towards the Marvel formula.
Right. It's the studio trying to push them away from the vision that was guiding this entire franchise from the beginning, and then they lost faith in it, got rid of Zack Snyder, and then they didn't know what the hell to do.
Well,
and when you look at all of the, like, here's the funny thing, here's the really funny thing of all of the DC films that are up here, the one that was made the least amount of money, whose film is that? Oh yeah, it's James Gunn.
But here's the thing, that might be honestly, that Suicide Squad film is 15 times better than the one that Zack Snyder was involved with. It doesn't matter.
Didn't make any money.
But that's the thing. The money,
and I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Yeah,
I didn't like it.
That's
a whole
nother we've already established that you are not always the best judge in whether a movie is good or not.
Yeah, so
I'm over here advocating for Zack Snyder in everything, even when it's not part of the conversation. So
Christian, did you like Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I thought Suicide Squad was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
What was fantastic about it, Christian? Please enlighten me.
It didn't take itself seriously. It knew what type of movie it was, and it executed being that type of movie. It was not a type of movie that needed to be interwoven with all of this other stuff. It had characters that it just let be ridiculous. It had characters that were expendable. It had characters that were unique, and it had a storyline that was straightforward, to the point, and entertaining.
and some loose connections to the overall universe
Had
for like
loose
but you
connections
didn't need
for
to know
backstory
them.
problems, right?
So
If you
loose
had
that they
it,
fell
yeah.
off by the end.
Right,
I
because that's
don't
the thing.
even
It
remember
didn't
that.
matter.
That's how
Because
loose
it
they
didn't
were.
matter. You had the reference to Idris Elba's character who put Superman in the hospital. You had Amanda Waller, obviously, who had been connected throughout the previous films.
Harley Quinn sees Boomerang's face on the wall, or is that no?
Boomerang is
He
there.
was in the movie.
He's
Boomerang
in the
was there,
movie.
and he got killed off in the first wave.
Yeah, right.
He was in the.
See,
he
I
was in the
thinking of
original.
the much better one with Harley Quinn, which is the Birds of Prey. That when she sees his
Well,
face, on
Boomerang
the
was
one
in
poster or
the.
whatever.
He was in the first Suicide Squad, and he's like, "Boomer, how you doing, buddy?"
Yeah, and then he gets destroyed along with half of the other cast of the movie in the first 20 minutes.
See, okay, but here's
which was hilarious.
Name a James Gunn movie that gives you hope that he knows how to handle the character of Superman the way people are expecting.
Here's the thing.
Or Batman. Either one.
In an ideal world, he won't be handling either of those characters. He will be hiring directors to handle the characters. In the ideal situation going forward, James Gunn
what is
he's going to be what Kevin Feige is to Marvel.
I get it.
He's going to be the guy putting all the story pieces together in the background, ordering all the movies, hiring the directors, piecing everything together. He's not actually going to be directly handling any of these characters.
And it should be Zack Snyder.
And it
should have been all along. That's the thing I'm the most upset about.
That is that's the thing, Christian, he's getting at.
Right. I know. And I agree with that. In a perfect world, yes, Zack Snyder would have been allowed to come back after his Justice League movie. He would have picked back up where he left off, would have tried to piece things back together and go where they were going. But I think it was already too far gone at that point. They had already jumped the shark, as it were, of his universe, right? They had already thrown it in a ditch and buried it. They gave him the Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max as kind of a peace offering to their fans to get them to shut up and leave him alone.
That's not what, if that's what they were expecting that to be, they sorely.
That's probably what it was. That's what I'm with Christian too. Sorry,
they thought getting that out and allowing him to finish that would have let the fan base shut them up.
Yes, because here's the thing.
If that's what they honestly thought and what motivated them to do it, then they're a bunch of idiots.
Well, I mean, I think we can all agree that for the last however many years, there's been 3 different regime changes now in the last 10 years.
Right.
I think we can all agree that the majority of the people who've been in charge of the larger DC cinematic universe haven't been that bright.
Oh, total moron.
Like they've either been incompetent or they've been ignorant, or they've just
all the more reason why they needed one person.
Right, they did, but here's the thing:
really cohesively putting it all together, which would have been Zack Snyder.
I think I speak for Bobby when I say we are both in 100% agreement with you. We are not arguing the fact that Zack Snyder should have stayed and should have been allowed to come back. I think we're in agreement there. But
I'm just pantomiming, Christian, because you are talking in my voice.
I do. I appreciate that olive branch.
Yes.
Acknowledging it for what it is.
Yes.
Totally get it.
So I think I
also am triggered.
The dead horse.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here on the whole. The thing that I'm most upset about now, and the reason why I'm finally going, all right, screw it. I'm done with Warner Brothers. I'm done with DC Universe, and I'm done with James Gunn, is because everything they did in announcing that everything's over feels very, very similar to the reality of what happened to Zack Snyder, which got us all irate and pissed off and upset and did the whole release the Snyder Cut movement in the first place. That movement was not about, oh, that movie sucked. Yeah. You should release it again and do it better. No, that entire movement was about artist integrity. It was about suicide awareness. It was about sticking it to the studio for not knowing how to listen to the fans, right?
Yeah.
It was so much more than what the studio realized it was. And moreover than not, most of the most passionate fans of the Snyderverse are fans of Zack Snyder and his vision of these characters more than they are fans of the DC universe as a whole.
And I
more
think,
than they are of Warner Brothers as a film company.
And
they
Dan,
are fans
that
of
is
Zack
the exact
Snyder.
reason why DC was never going to bring him back, because at the end of the day, they are looking for something to sell the DC universe to the wider population. They are looking for something to revitalize the DC universe to mainstream.
Totally understand that.
And
totally
in
understand
their
that.
mind, Zack Snyder was so laser focused on delivering his vision of these characters to his fans.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
That while yes, they would have 100% made better movies, better use of the characters, and as a whole, probably made them more money in the long run, they were looking at it with blinders on, saying, we are directly competing with the multi-billion-dollar Marvel movie franchises.
Right.
And so they needed to do, they decided we have to match that. And in their minds,
and they're making the same mistake now by putting James Gunn in charge.
Oh,
they're not making the right decisions at all. They're not bringing in someone who's going to make the DC universe be distinct enough from the Marvel world, because they're bringing in one of the most successful Marvel Cinematic Universe directors to make it another version of Marvel.
The Guardians of the Galaxy films are arguably most unique films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
and they're nothing like the DC franchise.
So Dan,
that might be what they want.
Can I just say, should the title of the podcast, should this really be called Dan versus David Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery than Dan versus James Gunn? Because it sounds like that's what you're more.
But I very much, at the very, very end of the day, I had high hopes when James Gunn was announced that he would understand and respect the vision of a director like Zack Snyder and all of the other directors that were involved in building this universe and help wrap it up before they hand off the torch to the next generation.
But how do you know it's his choice?
Yeah, I mean, look,
because it is.
No, there was rumors. Sorry, Christian.
How do you know?
The second they come in and Henry Cavill is dead,
because here's the thing. But here's the thing. The second that they came in was also the exact same time that Black Adam released, didn't make a ton of money, and they forced the reveal. They literally posted the post-credit scene of Henry Cavill the day the movie came out to try to hype people into going to see the movie.
Right. Oh no, Yep.
I think the studio said, all right, Dwayne, you want Henry Cavill? Here, we'll give you Henry Cavill for 10 seconds at the end of the movie. We're going to advertise him right when the movie comes out, just push it out. And if it drives the sales of the movie, we'll go from there. And it didn't. Nobody cared.
It did.
But it didn't. The movie still didn't make enough money.
Henry Cavill was, again, heads and shoulders the most amazing and most important and most talked about part of that entire movie.
Exactly.
And if you're saying, so again, Christian, if you're saying, hey, the studio was going to bring Cavill in, and if it was going to create the buzz,
and that's what you were saying earlier. It doesn't matter the quality,
but it did bring in money. More people went to see that movie because they heard Henry Cavill was going to be in it.
But not enough, because they already lost the faith of everybody. People didn't care anymore because they knew they knew what they were doing. They knew it was a marketing stunt. They knew it was a publicity stunt.
If they didn't care, then Henry Cavill as Superman wouldn't have been trending on Twitter for the last 3 days.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying
they do.
Yes,
care.
You are right. I'm saying you are right that it drove the sales, but it didn't drive it enough because most people were smart enough to know what DC was trying to do.
It wasn't a Superman movie. That's the point.
And plus, I was going to catch the clip online.
Right. The clip literally posted online the night the movie came out. That's the problem. Is people didn't need to go see the movie to see him. People didn't need. They saw the clip online, right? And so people knew They were just trying to make more money by putting him in the end of that movie. So people didn't go see it because they said DC's just trying to bait us into spending more money.
Maybe some people thought that. I think genuinely there are a lot of people out there who thought if Henry Cavill is actually going to be in this movie, then I'm really excited about the future of DC because I want to see him become Superman.
Yes, I think
is that enough to get me out there to go see a movie in the theater again through all of this COVID? And do I want to actually go see a movie in the theater now when I could just watch something at home? And I'm used to that. Like the market's changed radically, right?
Exactly.
So if that's the way that the studio is viewing it, then they're again a bunch of freaking morons. Like just a bunch of morons.
And honestly, I think part of the problem, I really do think part of the problem wasn't so much like again, it could be completely James Gunn. It literally could be completely James Gunn came in and said, "Nope, screw this."
I think that's very much his executive decision that they have allowed him to, like, they're agreeing with his executive decision. Don't get me wrong. Like if he did something and they were like, no, he probably wouldn't be allowed to do it. But
I don't know. I guess
when he comes in and he lays out this pitch, right? Like, I'm going to go back to his tweets because
he got directions from higher up to say fire Henry Cavill. There's too much drama with Gal Gadot, too much drama with Ben Affleck, too much drama with The Rock. They just said, screw it. Fire Henry Cavill. We're not going to deal with this bullshit.
I guess
James Gunn had to take the heat.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
I guess here's what I'd be curious to kind of the wait and see aspect of this would be over the next couple of months, what other dominoes fall as part of this, right? Does the Flash movie still release? Does the Supergirl movie that they've been filming on and off, does that come out? I know they're making that Blue Beetle movie. That one's probably still going to come out because it's so far disconnected from everything else.
That one's done too.
I think that
one's going to be done. The only ones that I think are actually going to come out are the ones that we just mentioned here earlier that we know for sure have an actual release date. Everything else, not going to happen.
Do you think they're going to throw Blue Beetle under the bus as well?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that's a possibility, though. I think
and here's the reason why. James Gunn has made it abundantly clear he is not looking at any of this stuff through the lens of paying respect to what has been done before. He said we're going to clean up the messes, right? Ergo, we're going to cut everything.
And honestly,
and then the things that do work, we're going to utilize the stuff that did work to inform our decisions moving forward.
Like, honestly,
with
if
a
he
new
came
franchise.
in and literally just wiped the slate clean and said we're done with everything, I would be honestly fine with them doing that. I would rather them do that than if they in turn just cut out Henry Cavill, still release everything else as planned, and then try to reboot the saga. I would much rather them just come in and say, you know what? Clearly what we're doing now isn't working. You get the axe, you get the axe, you get the axe. Everything gets the axe, and we're starting the slate clean. We're gonna build off of whatever they say. You know what? We're gonna build off of the Matt Reeves Batman universe, whatever they say, right? If we're gonna build off that universe, or
that's a possibility,
right? Or whatever they decide to do. I would much rather them do that than them just say, hey, you know what, Henry Cavill, you're done. But yeah, Flash movie still comes out, Blue Beetle still comes out, Shazam comes out, all this other stuff in this universe still comes out, and then we'll worry about rebooting it in a couple of years down the line, but we're still going to release all the stuff to try to make some money. I would rather them just say, yep, you know what? Everything that we're doing now, it's done. We're taking over. We're going to start a bunch of new stuff. We're going to release a bunch of new movies.
It's the easiest road to take.
I think it makes the most sense. Honestly, I think it makes the most sense.
Way to go.
Because here's the thing.
It's definitely the easiest one.
Dan, here's my question for you. In your ideal situation, if they came to you and said, "Hey, Dan, we've just fired James Gunn. You are the new head of DC Cinematic Universe."
Sweet.
God help us all.
Give me your 3-year plan for the next 3 years. Your quick 5-minute pitch, 3 years. What do you do to salvage the DC universe to the general population, to bring them back to make money? That is your job, to make money.
Well, my first act.
I'm timing you, by the way.
Oh, you're timing me.
Okay. 5-minute pitch.
Well,
Go.
I'm going to make this quick. My first act is to give Zack Snyder as much money as he wants and or needs to run the entire ship, because he knows this universe backwards and forwards. He does.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that, like, my overall thing would be, okay, that dude literally has reams of paper and reams of notes and backstory and details on how all of this stuff fits together and where all of it is going.
And let's say he doesn't want to come back. Let's say he says there's no amount of money that could be possible, because that very well could have happened. You don't know.
I mean, it's possible. It is possible.
Like, they could have very well came to him and said after the Zack Snyder Justice League, "Hey, man, you know what? It did really well. You know, we're sorry for everything that happened. Here's $100 million."
That's not what they said. They said the exact opposite. And then he said,
what happened behind closed doors.
Up yours, Warner Brothers. That's basically
maybe, but whatever. But I'm saying, so, let's say you go to him and you say, "Hey, man, here's $100 million. Come lead DC for the next 10 years." And he goes, he says, "Up yours."
Then I have another conversation with him, and another conversation with him, and another conversation with him. Like,
and then it's sick. And then it's been 6 months after you've gotten the job and you've made no progress. And then people are knocking on your door. "Hey, when are we going to make some announcements?"
Here's the thing. Doing? Here's the thing, Christian. Your entire hypothetical is undercutting my entire point.
My point is that you don't know that he hasn't been offered the opportunity to come back,
and we don't know that he has either.
That's what I'm saying. So if your entire point is that he should have been offered, he might have been offered, and he might have said no. So they're doing they very well might be doing the best with what they have, with him having said no. We don't know that. So to base our entire hate of what they're doing on the, Zack Snyder wasn't given the opportunity to finish what he wanted. Zack Snyder wasn't given the opportunity.
Okay,
we don't know
Christian,
that he hasn't been.
Of all of the three of us here, I've been following Zack Snyder and what he's doing and what he like. He absolutely loves these characters. There's no way if he was given a blank check and the ability to do whatever it is that he wanted, that he wouldn't say yes to that. Even if it wasn't him directing. Like, here's the thing. If he was the one just basically saying, okay, this is the direction I had all of this stuff heading in, I'm going to hand the torch off to other people and entrust them to tell their chapter of this story, as long as, like Kevin Feige, as long as it fits within this realm that I've created and checks all these boxes so that it fits with everything else that everyone else is doing. Like, he has all of those details. So whether he himself is the person that actually does it, or if he's like, okay, yeah, I'm handing all of this over to another person that I'm entrusting to do this. Like, that's what I do. I lean on the wisdom and expertise of Zack Snyder to finish this thing out in the next 2 to 3 years,
and then
hit the reset button with the Flashpoint and give it to James Gunn or God knows who else.
But that's what I'm saying is they don't have the 3 more years from now to, like, they've already cost themselves that opportunity. That's what I'm saying. They've already wasted enough time.
I don't disagree with you.
So to base your entire hatred of James Gunn's hiring on Zack Snyder's vision not being able to be finished.
I'm not angry or hateful over him being hired. I'm angry that he is basically screwing over all of the people who have been committed to
those
Henry
people. Have
Cavill.
been
like, again, it goes
last
back to Henry Cavill
years.
for me right now. For me right now, it all goes back to Henry Cavill and seeing that iconic Superman that we all have been waiting for like over a decade now.
Those people then should have showed up to Black Adam. Dan.
Up until 2 months ago, though.
To...
But here's the thing: up until 2 months ago,
they did. They're the only ones
Henry
who
Cavill
did,
was done anyway.
Warner Brothers has ruined the franchise up until then. So,
but up until 2 months ago, we thought Henry Cavill was already done. That's the thing. If it wasn't for
it was always like, is he? Is he not?
Right, but that's the thing. But nobody knew, right? And the only reason people are mad is because they said he was coming back, and then now they said he's not.
Right. How much of a douchebaggy move is that, dude?
Right, but you know,
I mean, come on.
But here's the thing. The thing is that at the end of the day, while yes, I agree, he should have been allowed to come back and take back on the role and continue to play that role for honestly as long as he freaking wants to. What at a certain point,
yes,
at a certain point, you're always going to associate his version of that character with the dead Zack Snyder universe. Even if you do a Flashpoint reset and he stays playing Superman.
I'm dude. If they did a Flashpoint reset, I would not want anyone else in the current cast to stay there and carry over. I don't think I'd want anyone there to carry over. I wouldn't want that.
The thing. If this Flash movie is still coming out like they are supposedly planning on it, that's what's going to be happening. They're going to be Flashpoint resetting it anyways. So I don't.
If that's what they do, I would totally be okay with that if they are respectful to the Snyderverse.
Well, here's the thing.
That's
the fact that they're letting this Flash movie even come out, if they do, means they're not respectful to anything.
The only thing that would make it not be respectful is that they're cutting all of the cameos of all the characters and all the people that we've known and loved for the last 10 years.
The movie shouldn't even be getting made, first off. You have a lead actor who has a number of legal
way more than Johnny Depp, that's for sure. And why is he getting his movie released and not?
I don't understand what the people in charge, whatever you want to call it, Warner Brothers, DC, whoever it is, whoever the people who are making these decisions prior to James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over, right? I don't understand what their point of thought process has been through any of this.
Right.
And so honestly, James
if you want something that could be an amazing tax write-off, it's that one right there.
Right. And so James Gunn and Peter Safran coming in, even though I don't agree with the decision to let Henry Cavill go the way they did it, at the same time, I also don't know realistically how much more you're going to utilize him in what they've currently got. So unless they were going to just wipe the slate clean, keep Henry Cavill, and just start from scratch again, which you're not going to do with a 39-year-old Henry Cavill, right? You're not going to restart the Man of Steel franchise again.
No, that's not the point. The point is that there should be a handing off of the torch. Or at least a conclusion of some kind. I think
Warner Brothers already
characters
screwed that option. I think Warner Brothers cut that cord and removed any possibility of there being a good handing of the torch.
Totally agree.
So I think that
why
James Gunn is being the fall guy
not
here.
Watching any more DC movies.
Right.
That's the whole reason why.
But I think the point I'm trying to
Bobby's
get across
like,
is
again with
your
this.
anger,
Your
anger towards James Gunn, I feel, is misdirected. Because we don't know.
The fact that he came in and then
because they had
Henry
nobody
Cavill's
else.
out.
They didn't have somebody who was in charge. They had just lost Peter Hamada. They had just lost the other guy. They didn't have a guy who was in charge making these decisions. So they waited until they had a new head in charge. They waited until they had a plan in place. And then they decided, okay,
but it's the same.
Step.
But that's the same people who also told Henry Cavill, yes, go ahead and announce Man of Steel 2. Tell the world about it.
Before James Gunn.
Right. So what I'm saying is if what Christian is trying to say is they waited until they had a head of the studio to then cut Cavill,
because I think
that makes them
used Henry
even
Cavill.
more of a douchebag because they knew they were going to be making that call, and they told Cavill and they told The Rock to go out there and tell the world Man of Steel 2 is coming out. And then when Gunn comes in, we're gonna axe everything.
So, Dan, did you cancel your HBO Max subscription?
Absolutely, I did.
You did. Okay.
Yeah,
did
2 days ago.
Okay. So going forward, are you gonna? So you're all DC movies.
My brother Andrew. You guys know my brother Andrew. He's really pissed about it too because The Last of Us is coming out, and he's been mooching off of my HBO Max subscription. So he's like, "But The Last of Us is coming out."
I saw that in our private conversation. Really got to be a big boy. So
I guess if James Gunn were to come out and say, without a shadow of a doubt, I am the one who made the decision to replace Henry Cavill or fire Henry Cavill, whatever verbiage you want to use.
I'd say it was probably a mutual decision between the two of them that are in charge.
But unless he does that, I feel like he is being utilized as a scapegoat for a decision that they made harshly, they made quickly they said, okay, yeah, we're going to put Henry Cavill back in there because Dwayne Johnson was pressuring them to bring him back. They've said, okay, great, we'll put Henry Cavill in there. The movie comes out. They hype up him with all the leaks. Dwayne Johnson leaks it. That gets leaked by the fans. Everything's leaked. They hype it up, and they realize, oh, crap, everybody's really excited about Henry Cavill coming back. Let's try to capitalize on that, and let's let him say we're making a Man of Steel 2, right?
To what end, though? To what end?
To the end.
Black Adam.
To try to sell Black Adam.
They announced Man of Steel 2 after Black Adam had been in theaters for at least over a week already.
Because I think they were trying to continue to push the sales of that movie, and they were trying to gain some semblance of positive fan reaction,
right?
And some
and
semblance
if that's
of trust.
The studios, again,
yeah.
I'm done with DC movies.
I am
I'm
agreeing
done with
with
Warner Brothers.
I am agreeing with you that it seems
giving them
like
any more of my money.
Okay.
I am agreeing with you that everything that they seems like they are doing is very scummy and very shady and very weird. I just am not confident enough to say it's James Gunn's fault. That's all I'm saying. I agree with you that the studio is scummy and that they have made a ton of bad decisions. I just don't feel comfortable blaming James Gunn, personally.
All right.
And I think let's give it a couple months.
So here's the thing, Christian. I'm going to take your approach and fire it back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. You have no proof that the studio did that. The only thing we have proof of right now is that James Gunn came in,
and Peter Safran,
and they made the decision as the head of DC, and then had a conversation with Henry Cavill and said, "You're done as Superman."
That's true.
You don't know the studio did that.
That's true.
They could be.
The only thing we know for sure is right now, James Gunn's the one holding the gun that shot Superman in the heart.
Here's my counterpoint. My counterpoint as to why I would lean more heavily into believing it was the studio instead of James Gunn is twofold as part. They announced Henry Cavill was coming back in Man of Steel 2 before James Gunn took over. So that means the studio had every intention, supposedly, of making that a reality. Then they supposedly, probably I would imagine, had an interview process with James Gunn and Peter Safran and decided that they were the ones who were going to take this going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So by that logic, if you're saying the studio wanted it to come out and James Gunn's the one who didn't want it to come out and axed it, wouldn't you assume that as part of that process, they would have made sure that whoever they brought in was going to continue to see the vision through that?
Well, it wasn't a priority to them either, obviously, as much. Here's what it comes down to. James Gunn pitched his vision of what he wanted to see happen with DC, and it included resetting everything and throwing stuff out. And it was such a good pitch. They said, go for it.
And honestly,
which is why I blame him. That's why I blame him.
If that is the case, if his pitch includes wiping the entire slate clean, I'm on board. Because
and I'm out.
I would rather see the entire slate wiped clean and us start from a fresh perspective than continue to see the straggling, lifeless body of the DC EU and the straggling, lifeless body of what little bit remains of Zack Snyder's vision dragged through the mud for 6 more movies.
So just remember, too, they have a lot of, so just from a money perspective, they have to figure out, 1, are they going to make any money from this or make any profit from it? 2, are they going to make more money by scrapping these movies? And 3, if releasing these movies, is it going to interfere with James Gunn's and David Safran's universe? So you have those 3 things they have to consider. And until we confirm everything coming out, we don't know what's going to happen or what's going to look like.
January is going to be very telling if that's when they actually announce.
So let's see what happens in January.
Hey, I'm going to be telling y'all more at the beginning of the next year. So I will. I'm not reserving all of my judgment, but I'm reserving some of it.
Yeah.
I will also say this. The next year of DC films is going to be extremely telling,
or lack thereof.
How they handle, especially the Flash movie.
Because we've got what, Shazam,
but you've got
the Flash
Shazam
for sure.
Shazam, I have Shazam, Flash, and Aquaman. I think Aquaman's coming out at the end of the year.
Those are the 3 for sure thing. Blue Beetle's kind of in the air.
I forgot. I feel like this Aquaman movie has been like scheduled to come out for like 7 years now. It feels like, so I forgot it hadn't already.
I have a feeling they're doing a lot of re-editing and rewriting and reshoots because they're trying to cut Amber Heard out as much as possible. And
just for a second, because I'm getting confused. There's been one Aquaman movie only so far.
One,
Yep.
I legitimately feel like the second Aquaman movie has been released 4 times already. Like my brain is like in shambles.
It's called Justice League, and then Justice League.
That was another thing too with the whole. The problem with DC is they tried to catch up too fast to Marvel.
Right. Yeah.
They wanted to go to instead of building up their characters and making people really care and love about them. They're like, oh, let's shoot it into Justice League and then split it. Where Marvel, like,
and this took the time to build.
This is where I hope, and we'll try and maybe wrap it up because we're getting on 2 hours.
Yeah, we got to get out of here. So I'm tired.
Dan, I do have a question for you, really quick.
Let me finish this thought.
Yeah, you go first.
My hope is that James Gunn can distinguish DC as being something that is wholly unique and not just making it a carbon copy of the success of the Marvel franchise. Because if anything's been proven, it's that Marvel is even having a hard time not making people just get bored to death of their own movies now.
Marvel could be its own podcast in itself.
It could, which is why we're wrapping it here instead.
I think his iteration of Suicide Squad and Peacemaker shows me that he is not afraid to make something un-Marvel. Because nothing is further from Marvel.
He wasn't allowed to make anything like that with Marvel.
Right, exactly. And so I think if that's the direction that he takes DC going forward, I am fully on board with that. And I would love nothing more than to see DC transition into this just
that would piss me off because I feel like it would be so disrespectful to the incredible characters.
But why?
Like the Family Guy style of humor. Of like random pointless jokes and just
I'm not saying every movie would be that. No, that's not what I'm saying. Obviously not every character would follow that exact formula. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying making these because
that style of film though is what we know him as right now.
Not necessarily.
Guardians of the Galaxy is like the PG-13 version, and Suicide Squad's like the rated R version of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that's his shtick. And if he's going to turn the DC universe into that, I am really concerned about that.
Let's see what he does.
But again, that's his directing style. He's not going to be directing every movie.
And he was directing 2 misfit characters, the Guardians, and which deserve that type of direction.
Right.
So
and
let's
so, like,
see what
again,
happens
think,
to
and if that's
the characters.
If that's the type of film that it needs to be, I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah.
But if he's sitting down to write a Superman movie,
every movie,
he's sitting down
then
to write
I'd be
a Superman
concerned.
movie or a Batman movie or a Wonder Woman movie, I have serious concerns, especially about his ability to write a Wonder Man.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think he's going to be doing any of that. I don't think he's going to be writing the films. I don't.
He's
think
already
he's
said he's doing the writing.
He's writing. He is writing
it. He's writing Superman.
Okay.
He's committed to writing Superman already.
Then I will say that does
makes me
concern
nervous.
me a little bit. Yeah, that does concern me a little bit. But I will say, and this would be my kind of last point, and then we can start wrapping it up.
Yeah, you had a question. Sorry.
So So just tagging on to our James Gunn versus the studio, who's kind of at blame here, is we've already seen with what the studio did to the Batwoman film that they have no problem just completely obliterating something's existence for no reason.
Well, for recouping costs through taxes.
And so that would be my only additional point on top of the why I'm leaning towards it probably being more of a studio decision would be we've already seen that they are willing and fully able to obliterate something off the face of their future at the snap of a finger, at a Thanos snap of erasing something. And so if they did it with an entire movie that was filmed and almost done editing and arguably ready for release, why not do it with an actor that's 39 and they had just announced a movie less than 2 months ago? That would be my argument. If we've seen they're willing to do it with an entire movie, why?
And I was mad when they did it with the Batgirl movie.
And so that's the thing. So like I said, and like you said, we based on what we know currently, it's a coin flip, right? It could have either been James Gunn, could have been the studio, could have been a combination of the two. We don't really fully know what happened behind the scenes. All we know is timeline of events was it existed. James Gunn took over. It no longer existed. That's all we know. And so that very well could be James Gunn's fault. Very well could be the studio's fault. Could be both their fault. Who knows? Maybe, who even knows? Maybe it was something as simple as James Gunn coming in, like you said, gave them their pitch. And then the studio was like, all right, cool. Well, we like this pitch. So let's just scrap the whole thing with Henry Cavill because there's no sense in trying to do that and then go to the new stuff. So we'll just scrap it. That's the thing, we don't know, and I think you're right. I think the next couple months will be really telling to see what else they do, and I think will be interesting to see. I think if in January, if it gets announced that they are going to finish out this slate of movies that they have filmed and almost ready to release, and then go into a hard reset, that would be a little more disappointing to me then in the Henry Cavill release. But if it's hey, guess what? We're axing the Flash. We're axing Shazam. We're axing Blue Beetle. We're axing Supergirl. Everything's cut. And here is the next filming slate that we're going to be working on. And we'll see you in 3 years with the first set of movies.
You'll have a lot of pissed off people like Jeffrey. What's his name? Like the guy from who's playing Shazam. I'm forgetting his name. Jeffrey Levy.
Zachary Levi.
He's friends with friends with James Gunn. So you're going to have a lot of pissed actors and a lot of broken contracts if they do that. So they have to be prepared to make that act. So they have a fine thing to do.
Or at the very least, they say, hey, guess what? None of these movies are getting theatrical releases. Everything's going on HBO Max. Watch it if you want. We don't really care.
Is there an actual release date officially right now for the Flash movie?
They've delayed like 7 times.
Really?
Let's see.
Because here's what I could see. Here's what I could see them doing. I could see them going, okay, the Flash is the end of the
June
Zack Snyder
16th.
film.
June 16th, 2023, apparently.
June
16th, 2023.
They're going to push that back. They're going to push that back. They're going to make that be the last one. That's what I think.
And then Shazam is March.
It's going to be a Band-Aid hodgepodgey. Things are totally different now. Okay, moving on.
So Shazam in March, Flash in June, Aquaman in December.
Oh, they're going to flip that. I agree with that. They're probably going to flip that.
Right. But yeah, I do think I do think James Gunn came in and was the only person who probably was bold enough to say, we're not going to try and fix the stuff that doesn't make sense anymore. We're just going to stop and we're going to start over.
And so here's the
here's
deal.
where we're going.
So if he comes,
that's
out,
what they need to
say,
do. That is what they need to do.
If he comes out in January with a concrete plan, right, and says, "Hey, this is our 5-year plan," right? Like if he comes out with a 5-year plan and says, "This is everything we're doing," sets a concrete vision. Would you be more willing to would you be more willing to accept this if it comes at the cost of DC moving forward with a set plan and a more concrete kind of build toward the future?
Only if it brings some sort of closure to the characters that I've fallen in love with over the last 10 years.
Fair.
Okay. He's looking for closure. So that's it, folks. We spent an hour and 40 minutes. Dan needs closure. If we can get closure in the next 20
me some closure,
years,
y'all. That's what I need.
He just needs closure, and then all is forgiven. That's what we're missing
a big piece here. If through all of this, it means that we get to see Jason Momoa as Lobo, I think that's the win-win for everybody.
I don't know that I like that.
All right. So anyway,
I know a lot of people love him being the idea of him being that, but I don't know.
Regardless. Well,
anyway,
this was a blast.
This was a blast. We'll do it again.
Yeah. Let's
talk about Marvel.
We should make this like a semi-regular thing. We should make
a
podcast out of this.
Maybe do it kind of frequently.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Yeah.
I hear there's some news coming out in January about all this DC stuff too. Maybe we can talk then.
Yeah.
Our last podcast, Christian, was us talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier at the beginning of Phase 4.
That's a long time ago. In January. We should do like a 2023 recap or 2022 recap for everybody.
There we go.
Since we didn't even cover any of it, we'll just get it all in one podcast.
That'd be a 5-hour long video.
Yeah, I would think we should do a Marvel Phase 4. What does Phase 4 mean?
I'm up for it. And here's the thing: not just these roundtable stuff. I think Andrew is doing a lot of like gaming and live streaming and retro stuff. Yeah. I've got this crazy thing that happened to me. Little plug for a video that we're going to be doing. I don't know if any of you can see this. You can see this. This is apparently, I got it for $15, and Andrew is insisting on telling me that it's actually worth $2,000. It's Donkey Kong Country. It's not a normal Donkey Kong Country. I didn't know that when I bought it, and he's pissed that it's not him, that it's me and not him. Anyways, little reviews and stuff like that, or gaming online, and just whatever. Doesn't have to be roundtable discussions. We're going to keep doing more.
We kind of disappeared off the face of the earth for a while, but I think we need to get back.
Season 2, we're back. Yeah. Morty and Rick Adventures again. Yeah. You're going to see me unhinged and find Rick Prime.
We got stuck in a wormhole for a while, but we'll be back.
So excited. All right. Well, have a wonderful night, gentlemen. Thanks again
for. Have a Merry Christmas.
You kind of talked me off the ledge a little bit.
That's good. That's all I need to do.
I'm at least willing to hear him out in January. I'm giving him like 3 weeks here.
All right.
That's better than before. So have a good night.